Hierarchical clustering. Let's imagine we're trying to create clusters based on, say, age and number of doctor visits. And then let's say our data looks something like this. So how does hierarchical clustering work? First, imagine each sensor, and in this case, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 observations, each representing their own sensor at this point. And now we're going to imagine each center grows a bubble until it hits another bubble. Hits another bubble. So what does that look like? So it's starting to grow a bubble, everyone's growing bubbles simultaneously. And it's growing, boom, these two hit each other. Once they hit each other, it's like, hey, you're super close to me, I think we're super similar, let's belong in the same cluster. So, since these two hit each other first, let's put them in the same cluster. And that will be part of step 2. Let's call it crashing bubbles. Form cluster with a new sensor. So these two are going to form a cluster. It's going to be blue cluster, and they're going to have a new sensor. Their new sensor will be right there, the center of those 2 points. Now, step 3 is actually repeat step 1 and 2 until bubbles travel, let's say, too far, in quotes. We'll see that in a bit. They have to travel too far to hit another bubble. So let's imagine all the bubbles are growing. Again, we have this blue cluster, so that's the new bubble for the blue cluster. So all the bubbles are growing, and then boom, we see these two hit each other next. And let's put them in the red cluster, and their center will be here. So we have red cluster, blue cluster. And again, we repeat the algorithm. So growing, new sensor for the red, growing. I think probably these two are hitting each other, maybe these. But essentially, this will become part of the red cluster. And its new center is probably around here. And then it looks like we'll have a green cluster made up of these two, and they're going to be around there. So eventually, we're going to get to a point where the clusters will actually end up with 3 clusters. We'll probably end up with the blue, the red, and the green. So why do we stop at 3 clusters? It's because if we kept on going, the bubbles would have to travel way too far to hit another cluster. So imagine the bubbles growing. Before, they just had to grow a little to hit another cluster. Whereas now, you have to travel so far to hit another bubble. Thus, this is hierarchical clustering, and we get a 3-cluster solution.